Welcome to Q&A practice. Let's get started with this two-voice Q&A practice, and it begins with the defense attorney. Ready? Could you describe what type of living quarters this is, whether it's an apartment or a house or a condominium? It's a two-story house. And do you know the defendant in this case? Yes, I do. And is he in court? Yes, he is. And how do you know him? He and my mother had been going out for a few months, and so he'd been by the house a couple of times, and I had met him on a few occasions. That was a few months before this incident. That's right. And to your knowledge, had that relationship ended? Yes, it had. Had you had any conversation at all with the defendant after the relationship ended? No, I hadn't. Were you home alone, or was somebody else present with you on the 25th day of June? I was alone. And were you engaged in any particular activity at that time? Yes, I was vacuuming the living room. Okay, can you describe the front door of your house and any mailbox that you may have? There's a small tiled hallway which opens directly onto the living room. Between the wall and the door is a mail chute that has a wrought iron door on it. And did you hear or see anything unusual that particular day that drew your attention to the mail chute? I heard something drop down the chute, and it goes directly into the living room. Is that correct? Yes. What time of the day or night was this approximately? It was in the early afternoon, somewhere around 1:30 or 2. Now, after you heard this sound, what, if anything, did you do at that time? Well, I felt it was odd because the mail had already come on that day. We have a large glass window in the living room that opens to the street. So I looked to see who was dropping something in the mailbox. Were you concerned about anything in particular at that time when this happened? No, I just thought it was odd that somebody was putting something in the mailbox. Okay, so when you looked out your glass window, what did you see, if anything? I saw a male leaving from the wooden steps and crossing the lawn. How long did you continue to see this person? Just as he crossed the lawn, maybe just about 5 or 6 seconds. Did you see a vehicle at that time? No, I did not. Did you see a vehicle later that was connected to that person that walked away at all? I don't recall seeing a vehicle. Do you ever recall seeing the defendant driving a car? I had seen his car before. And did you know him to have one or more cars? I only knew of one personally. And do you know what kind of a car that was? That was a Toyota. Okay. Did you ever know him to own or drive a Honda? Not myself, no. Now, was this a weekday or a weekend? Do you recall? I don't recall. And were you employed or going to school at that time? Going to school. And where were you going to school at that time? I was at the UCLA School of Medicine. And did you ever have any contact with the defendant after that incident, personally or on the phone? No. So what did you do after you saw the person walking across the lawn? I went to the mailbox and took out the yellow envelope and opened it. Excuse me. All right, so now we'll do a little Q&A, maybe some for voice with our transcript. Excuse me. All right, and we will start with the plaintiff attorney. Ready? The other side of the coin would be if you answered a question that is asked of you today. Everyone involved in the case is going to assume that you listened to it, understood it, and then answered it as best you could today. Is that fair? Yes. You know that you're under oath to give the best testimony, your most honest testimony that you can give today, and I trust that you will, correct? Yes. And this, even though we're in my conference room, this has the same force and effect as though we were sitting in court, and that is, even though it's a deposition, it is formal, and that is, everything we are saying today is being taken down by our court reporter, and you're going to have a chance, probably like you did in prior depositions, to read the questions and all of your answers. One thing that's important is that you need to know that you can make changes in your answers later on. But what I'm really after today, and I think you can appreciate it, is for you to listen to the full question, every one of the questions, and give me your best answer today, as opposed to later on having to make changes. You follow what I'm saying? Yes. You may have seen on TV where somebody cross-examines a witness and says, well, you said one thing today and you said another thing a long time ago, and which is it? You know what I'm saying? Right. Again, I'm not trying to intimidate you. What I'm trying to say is what I'm really after today is your best and most accurate memory today of the events that I ask you about. Okay? Yes. Sometimes I ask about times, dates, measurements that you may not have an exact memory of, but because you lived it and perceived it, you would have a best estimate. What I don't want you to do is to guess. If I ask you how long the pen is that I have in my hand, from life's experience, you can look at the pen and give me an estimate. If I asked you how long the pen is in my office right now at home, you'd have no idea. You never saw that pen. You don't know what I'm talking about. That would be a sheer guess, right? I don't want you to guess about anything today. Give me your best estimate, which is really all I'm entitled to, but I am entitled to that. Fair enough? Yes. Have you taken any kind of medicine, anything at all, consumed anything, or do you feel bad, anything at all that would have any bearing on your giving your very best testimony about the accident that happened back on July 18th of 09, giving that testimony today? No. All right, as I said, this is somewhat informal, and that is, if you need to take breaks for whatever reason, use the restroom, want to just walk around, you let me know. We'll finish the topic area we're covering and take a break. Hopefully, this won't take too long. Okay. Counsel, have I covered the things you think I should cover? I think so. I think you got it covered. Well, let's do this. Just to let you know, I'll be going a little bit in your background and cover a little bit of the information about the accident and then some specifics that are in your report. One thing that I think is always important is there are no video cameras today, so nods of the head, shrugs of the shoulders, and even though we're audible here with uh-huhs and huh-uhs, we need to get an English verbal response, yes and no, if we can. If I do say to you, is that a yes or is that a no, please understand I'm not being disrespectful to you. I'm just wanting to make certain our court reporter gets a verbal English response. Okay? Okay. All right, that will conclude our Q&A practice. Thank you.